Jose Maria Lopez is our points leader from Sebastian Loeb and Ivar Muller, and they start 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Lopez with Sebastian Loeb rather with new tyres all round. James Nash, as you might expect, Ivar Muller and Jose Maria Lopez both with new front tyres. Okay, well, let's see if we can hear from Rob Huff now on the warm-up lap.
Hello everyone, once again an unbelievable atmosphere here on the Hungaroring. We just started our formation lap, heading to turn 4. Now the focus is on keeping temperature in the front tires to get the maximum grip when we have to get off the line. From the feeling, the car is really good. We had a well-balanced vehicle yesterday in qualifying. Unfortunately, bad luck. And I will do my best in the races. So support. Thank you everyone who came today. I will do my best and I will go for maximum. Bye.
I wasn't quite sure who we're going to hear from there. I sort of second-guessed it would be Rob Huff because he was with the camera and the onboard microphone yesterday, but of course Norbert Mikulits, and there's no question he will be absolutely bleeding red, white and green to try and get his car somewhere near the front.
And Norbert, like Loeb, is on 4 new tyres, so it's, he obviously thinks he hasn't got a balance issue around here. Brand new rear tyres is obviously going to give him a lot more grip, and at the end of the race maybe see more understeer, so we might see a change towards the end of his grip level.
So Mikulits starting 11th place, and there is always a story around Norby here. Winning races, heartbreakingly having races torn away from him by incident and accident, but whatever, it's always entertainment. So Citroen start 1, 2, 3, Honda 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, all Chevy RML cruisers. Round 5 of the World Touring Car Championship is about to get underway. It's a cold and blustery Hungaroring as we get ready for rounds 5 and 6 of the World Touring Car Championship. The grid headed by 3 Citroens, then 3 Hondas, then 4 Chevrolets, and the rest. Dusan Borkovic right at the back of the field. Local hero Norbert Mikulits starts 11th, 6 car back, number 5 on the right-hand side of your screen. The green flag is ready. Our race director will start the sequence. 5 lights go on, the revs rise, clutches are biting, it's a very quick start. Good start from Tom Coronel, boxed in by Mehdi Benani, getting away slowly. Thiago Monteiro and Gabriele Tarquini have both gone by Sebastian Loeb. Lopez defending against the Hondas allows Muller to take point into the first corner. It's Muller and Lopez. Monteiro and Tarquini. Loeb goes the long way around the outside. Understeer City can't get the power down early enough. Behind him is Mikulits, already up to 6th position. Stunning start from Norbert Mikulits. He's inside Loeb for 5th. He's going to Benani is in front of him, so in fact that's for 6th and 7th. But he's got by Sebastian Loeb, who is being shuffled into the pack. He hasn't. He's still inside. Now he's got through ahead of Toms, Coronel and Chilton. That's a bit of a disappointment for Loeb, but a great start from Norby. The crowd will go mental, James Nash.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear him come past, and the noise that he'll create, it will be amazing. He's done a great start there. It's incredible to get him there. He's got Benani in front of him. He's really got to push hard. He's on 4 new tyres. Now is the time that he'll get the benefit.
11th to 6th in the first couple of corners, and Muller and Lopez in front. Just to remind you, the Citroens, like all the other cars, new at the start of the season, had 60 kilos of new car ballast. Because they're the fastest cars, they have not lost that. Everybody else now running 60 kilos lighter. And on this abrasive, tyre-killing Hungaroring circuit, the Citroens need to escape, so they've got a margin to nurse their tyres later. But Thiago Monteiro and Gabriele Tarquini and Mehdi Benani and Norbert Mikulits, that's 4 Hondas right behind, are going to make sure that they have to work very hard on their tyres.
Yeah, they've got Norby chasing him. They've got to get a move on, and they can't let these Citroens go, because as soon as they've gone, they'll never make that time back up.
Norby trying to get by for 5th position ahead of Mehdi Benani. Benani in 5th. Mikulits, listen, The crowd rise to their feet as he comes by, behind the second train, led by Coronel. That's Coronel, Chilton, Thompson, Huff, Vallant, Morbidelli, Kozlowski, all in a queue. And Hugo Vallant with the bright yellow colours as Tom Chilton tries to get inside Tom Coronel.
So a change between Huff and Thompson there. That's Thompson leading the Lada group.
Yep. And Chilton has got a loose bonnet. Now, it didn't look like there was contact between him and Coronel, although there might almost be there. But one of the bonnet pins hasn't been secured, and so that is going to be a real distraction. It's in front of the driver, so he'll see something flapping around up and down into his vision. But the other effect, of course, is that it's going to disrupt your underbonnet cooling and your aerodynamics. He might run into high temperature problems.
Yeah, and that pin probably won't support it for the whole race either, and if that flicks up, he's going to lose vision and it will do a lot of damage to the roof.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the reason having a gap there and more air coming in might ruin the cooling is the cooling is really controlled to go through the turbo and the intercoolers from the front and then exhaust out through the arches and through the bonnet. And if you've got air coming in and tumbling around, basically it'll stall any cooling air, and he might well end up with the car suddenly going very, very hot on him indeed. Muller and Lopez out front at the start though. Watch the second car back on the right. Loeb falling into the pack as Mikulits, the red and black on the left-hand side, pulls out into the slow lane and just goes storming all the way down the outside. Well, from Loeb's camera, it doesn't make great viewing. It's almost like he had his own personal damp patch on the track that was causing wheel spin. With Tomo behind Norby. And through the first corner, all safely through. Muller, Lopez, Montero and Tarquini, the gap starting to open up. Muller, James Nash just setting the fastest race lap at 1:50.5. Well inside the old track record as Huff defends against Hugo Vallant's Chevrolet.
That was very close.
Yeah. Huff really had to get the door shut in a hurry there, didn't he? The Chevy had a good run in him down the straight and comes by. He's going to make him go the long way around the outside. But Vallant and Morbidelli are there all over the back of Rob Huff in the Lada, and through goes Morbidelli. Little contact with Hugo Vallant. As Vallant loses a place, he drops down to 13th. Rob Huff now in the Lada in 11th position. James Thompson into 10th place. Look again at this. And Vallant in the middle there, trying to attack, left the door open from behind.
Yeah, he got forced to a direction, and that just left the door open for Morbidelli to slide in underneath him. Hugo couldn't do anything about that after that.
Morbidelli wasn't trying to force him off the track, but coming in tight, the car's always going to drift out wider. Tom Coronel pulling away from Tom Chilton, but James Thompson, first time the Lada seems to be running well for him. I probably shouldn't have said that. Let me touch laminate here on the desk and see if that helps in any way. Well, Muller and Lopez, the 60 kilos does seem to be having the effect of just slightly blunting the performance of the Citroens compared to everybody else, but they are still able to hold themselves away from the Hondas that pursue them. So Ivan here, car number one in the lead.
They're just having to work harder now.
Yeah.
It's much more exciting for us to see that, and we're really seeing Ivan pushing ultra hard to get this gap.
Look further back, here come the Hondas. Montero, Tarquini, Bernardi. Mikulits not close enough, but he's got Loeb for company. So Sebastian Loeb, as you expect, has not given up a chance of coming up the order. Tom Coronel outbrakes himself a little bit. One of the problems he had in Marrakesh, he said, was inconsistency in the brake pedal in the Chevrolet. And there was a deal yesterday, wasn't there, where the brake balance adjuster didn't work for him, and he ended up breaking it off or breaking it in some way.
Looks like he's broken again. Yeah,
it does look like he's got more rear braking than he wants, and that means just locking it up going into corners as the back goes light, as the nose dives. Just the same in a racing car as your road car.
I think we might see Loeb start attacking now. He'll start coming through the field.
Yeah, Mikulits has got to really make use of those all-new tyres. Loeb also on all-new tyres, so honours are even there. And of course, Norby is jammed up behind Mehdi Banani and the other Hondas, and so Loeb's just got an open goal to attack. Whatever Mikulits does, Loeb can watch him and try and counter.
With this extra downforce, it's really hard to follow another car, so that they'll be feeling a dirty air effect. So you really do need a faster car, and maybe with Loeb he's got that opportunity with a faster car to overtake.
Yeah. Of course, the longer he sits behind Norby, the more worn his front tyres are going to be, but the same for Norby behind Mehdi Banani, the more worn his tyres are going to be. And maybe that is why Tiago Monteiro at the moment is comfortably the quickest of the Hondas. Last time round at 150.6 to 150.9 of Tarquini, who's in his drag, and then Banani and Michelic slower again because they're following not one, not two, but 3 and 4 cars, and so even more turbulent air. Chilton has to come in. He's been handed or shown the black and orange flag. Now, that's not a mandatory pit stop, but it is a warning that the officials think there's something wrong with your car. I think he's probably been brought in because, first of all, the team have seen on camera that there's a problem with the bonnet, and secondly, I'm sure the under-bonnet telemetry is telling him it's getting far too hot.
Yeah, saying you've got mechanical failure, you have to come into the pits and get that rectified, and then you can continue.
Yeah. Well, I think he probably needs to get that bonnet fixed just to stop the engine boiling itself to pieces.
Yeah, there's no point in doing any more damage either.
He's not the only Chevy in the pit lane either, because René Munich is in, and Mikhail Kozlowski is in the pits for Lada as well. So Kozlowski out of the race. René Munich has been pulled back onto the apron by the All-Inkle team as we watch Hugo Vallant in the yellow and white car attacking Rob Huff in the all-red Lukoil Lada. Huff on the brakes into turn 4. You normally want to get in as quickly as you can. It's a very quick turn, but clearly not feeling with a full load of fuel on board that he can do much about it.
Where's Morbidelli gone?
Morbidelli.
He's past Thompson, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got by Chilton and Huff. Chilton coming into the pit lane, of course.
There's 2 Ladas and then the...
Oh, Morbidelli, yes, you're right, absolutely. He has got through. So he's passed them both. He was in front of Rob anyway, wasn't he? But he's obviously done Tomo somewhere out of our sight. So 5th of our 14 laps. And behind Dusan Borkovic, started at the tail of the field, up to 14th place now. So failed the ride height test after qualifying. Unfortunately for him, there's the Vallance pit wall. Tyre pressure change for René Munich. So we're understanding, but I'm not sure that was entirely what ailed him. Obviously, he's not feeling the comfort factor in the car that he was in Marrakesh, and certainly in Marrakesh, and to a degree last time in Paul Ricard either. And you know what? Maybe it's all part of the cold temperatures here. I'm sure these cars must feel very different because it's so cold. They must feel really quite up on their toes, James.
Yeah, obviously these cars are all new, these Chevrolet, so it's an extended test session for them, and they're going to get as much information as they can out of it.
Well, Dominic Greiner, who's engineering René Munich's car, has told Ben Constantius that they are now basically in a test session because he's not feeling the confidence in the car to really push. Norbert Michelic there in the Mol Group car, the red and black Honda Civic, still in front of Sebastian Loeb. So Loeb will be out of the top 6. And all this, of course, is of slightly academic interest to the Hungarian fans, although having Norby battling a legendary figure like Sebastian Loeb is always grist to the mill. But what it does mean for Jose Maria Lopez and for Ivan Muller is that one of their teammates isn't going to score strongly, and it's all stirring the championship points pot. Well, if Gianni Morbidelli could get by these two, you imagine that Hugo Vallant must be thinking, now, how's he done that? Why can't I get by these Hondas?
It'd be interesting to see that mistake maybe that Thompson made, because it all happened rather quickly, and Huff's really closed up.
Well, Mikhail Kozlowski with cooling issues is still in the pit lane. I'm sure he is out of the race at the moment. And even in these cold temperatures, James, the heat that the turbos get to, you know, they glow white hot, almost see-through. The metal gets so hot, and cooling is really a factor. You know, even if it was snowing, the underbonnet temperature would still be unbelievably high.
Yeah, you want the exhaust and the turbo to run as hot as possible, cleanest escape for the exhaust gases then. But the rest of it obviously needs to remain as cold as possible.
Of course, Kozlowski in qualifying, one of the hoses blew, and we saw dramatically like water gushing out from the bonnet vents and through the wheel arches, and I wonder if it's a knock-on of that. With no morning warm-up, the race is the next chance you have to actually run the car and make sure that you've glued it all back together properly. So I wonder if that's going to have knock-on effects. Just to remind you, our race leader is Ivan Muller, now 2 seconds clear of Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez coming to the Hungaroring. This is the first track in the championship that he had actually raced on previously. He raced here in GP2 a few years back before he returned to racing in Argentina. And of course, you know, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, you know your way around a little bit more than discovering a new track, but these guys learn things so fast, and in effect, it doesn't actually really make much difference.
No, within 5 laps, they'll know where they're going. It's more things like where they go in the paddock, where the toilets are,
yeah,
where they need to be.
And what 15,000 forints means in real money, which is yeah, not as shocking a price as you think it might be. Thiago Monteiro there in third, shaking off Gabriele Tarquini as well. Tarquini, Bernardi and Michelic in this little queue don't seem to be working as fast together as the single Honda of Monteiro on its own, and that's slightly surprising. You know, this is quite a quick circuit. I suppose the problem is there are too many fast corners. Yeah,
it's a very, very hard track to overtake anyway. With all these fast corners and following with this extra downforce, they'll be losing grip all the time, and their tyres are slowly going away. So now it's going to be where people start making mistakes.
Well, the gap coming down, Muller to Lopez was 2.0. It's now down to 1.8. Jose Maria Lopez a full 1.2 seconds quicker than Ivan Muller last time round. Still 6 laps to go after this.
Is that a rare mistake from Ivan, or is that his tyres going off?
Well, it might be the fact that they've had the magic call on the radio, whatever the Citroën equivalent of team orders is. Rob Huff dives to the inside of James Thompson. No orders between these two. This is about trying to race. And of course, you say, well, why don't we just follow each other? Well, because you don't learn much by following somebody. You learn by racing your cars. Hugo Vallant gets down the inside. Wonder if Thompson is struggling with his steering issues again. Rob Huff goes through, Vallant gets through, and Borkovic in the background, the red, white and blue of Serbia. He is looking to go by Thompson as well. Tomo's car suddenly going off the boil. It might just be that his steering gremlins have reappeared and the car didn't really look like it wanted to turn into corner 4 there, did it?
No, we spoke to him the other day and he was having real trouble with the steering, and it's just after a few laps he just loses all feel of steering.
Well, it might just have been that he was a fraction offline, a bit late turning in. He might have left the door open before Borkovic, figuring it was a done deal. Just looked a little like Tomo was struggling with the car.
Yeah, lack of confidence, I think.
Too, yeah. Steering goes west on its own accord. You're never going to be thoroughly overjoyed with it. That makes this then the battle for 10th place. Huff is in 10th ahead of Vallant, and then Borkovic and Thompson. So Huff in the red Lada. Again, even though these cars have got more aero, they're more stiffly sprung than before, more firmly damped, still get that dive under braking, still very visible. Can't alter the laws of physics, Jim.
You certainly can't, and they've got more power as well. Although they've got the wider tyres, they've got more power going through them, so the same problems.
Absolutely right. Ivan Muller holds the gap to Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez only 0.05 of a second quicker than Muller that time round, so the gap stationary at 1.8 seconds. And you feel that the Citroën pit wall have requested that there is no more racing between the top two. They want to get both cars home on the podium. Loeb down in 7th place at the moment. Rob Huff in front of us as we ride with Hugo Vallant. He gets a run around the outside and goes by the Lada. Huff has to use the runoff area just to keep power down. So as they get to turn 4, he now is under pressure from Borkovic.
And that runoff is wet as well from this morning, so he's now got wet tyres and they've cooled down dramatically. He's going to have to work really hard to get these tyres back up to temperature.
Of course, if you push them too hard, once the temperature drops off, you end up ruining them rather than warming them. Borkovic with a big lock up behind, decided to get out of that inside line before it was all too late.
Was Rob pushed round there? Was he helped?
No, I don't think so. I think the line just took him off wide. He just kept his foot mashed to the throttle, didn't he? And just kept bending the firewall to try and get more oomph out of it. There's the Borkovic family and fan club. They are all tall at the back, aren't they?
Very tall.
They're actually standing on something, but Dusan Borkovic just gets his nose out of the way. Girlfriend punching the air with delight. So tough break after qualifying to lose his qualifying times. Ride height failure. I don't think it was materially that much of an influence in his pace in qualifying, but he's come back up through the field. 12th place at the moment and looking for 11th. And this is the pass of Hugo Vallant on Rob Huff.
Quite right.
Huff with a big slide, and yeah. Well, that's interesting that the tail steps out rather than he washes away from the corner. He's holding the front in nice and tight, but he's obviously got a very twitchy tail to the car, and that's what you need really to make the car turn.
That's right, but it's downhill off camber, and we've spoken about the rear tyres losing temperature, so maybe he's got that coming in, and he's trying to brake to keep that nose in, so the nose is rotating, the rear's rotating around the front. There's nothing really you can do about that.
Yeah, tail wagging the dog, and of course that means if it's going sideways, it's not going forward as efficiently, and the car behind was, so he gets that little jump in momentum. Again, looking back from Huff, climbing up the hill. Great elevation changes on some parts of this track. Muller now extending his advantage in the lead over Lopez, out over 2 seconds. Savan for the first time in several laps, pulling a lead as Huff holds on ahead of Borkovic. This is for 11th place. It's not even going to pay any points, but James, you're a racing driver, you're racing, you've got to carry on. You can't just go, yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, and like we said before, they're all learning as well, and this is an extra step for them to learn. They're all learning about each other. Borkovic is a new driver into this championship, so he's now racing with a world champion, Rob Huff, and he wants to understand what he does and how he moves the car around.
And he wants to overtake him. And you know, and there is no guarantee that the cars that finish in front will all end up being legal at the end of the race weekend. So
as he suffered.
Exactly. It's always worth pushing on. Franz Engsler in front of Pasquale Di Sabatino. Engsler really hurling the BMW around in the TC2 class. Sabatino got the best out of the car in qualifying, but Franz has been racing 3 Series BMWs almost since before the 3 Series BMW was invented. And so he has got lots of knowledge to draw on in that car. I tell you, when Di Sabatino beats Engsler in a straight fight in his own cars, then he knows he's done a good job. I wouldn't suggest for a moment there's anything less in Pasquale's car than there is in Franz's. It's just the experience that Franz has got is always going to be an advantage for him against an equal car.
Yep, getting a single lap out of the car is very different to doing 14 hot laps. Completely different mentality the driver has to have.
And of course Pasquale is learning how the tyre wear works and all of that stuff, because he's new to that car, whereas Franz raced it for the last couple of seasons, and before that the normally aspirated 2-litre engine, and so on and so on and so on. So it's all in his data banks. He's just got to react to it all. There is the Citroen pit wall, looking passive as ever. Muller and Lopez circulating comfortably ahead of the field, 4.7 seconds ahead of Thiago Monteiro. And Sebastian Loeb, well, he said at the beginning, when he was talking to Alex, we think this is going to be a tough track to overtake on. I just want to make a good start. Didn't make a bad start, but there were others around him that made really strong starts. And Loeb just got swallowed up in turn 1, and he has proved it is a tough track to overtake on. He's not been able to make a pass all race. Muller and Lopez 1-2. Monteiro will be on the podium at the moment in 3rd place, ahead of Tarquini, Bernani and Michaelis. So in terms of the constructors' points, Citroen 1st and 2nd, but Honda, the next 4 cars. And it might be a little bit of a surprise that the Chevy Cruze is not so much on the pace here. The best Chevrolet is Tom Coronel in 8th, Gianni Morbidelli in 9th, Hugo Vallant in 10th. I mean, they've absolutely been outpaced so far, not just by Citroen here, but by the Honda.
Yeah, that's some work that Honda have done over the winter, and they're really making that pay here. You know, we saw the Chevrolet as a 1 lap, not too far off, but obviously once they've backed everything up, the cambers and everything from qualifying spec, racing, not quite so good.
No, and the Honda guys were saying, Thiago was saying the other day, that they've made quite a significant step change by sitting down and having time to scratch their heads and work things out in the week off between Paul Ricard and coming here, which they hadn't had between Marrakesh and Ricard. It's basically pack up, travel, unpack, race. Now they've had a bit of time to think about it and work on it, and the car has made a bit of a step change. The weight coming out has also helped in terms of less to haul around with your engine power. Pasquale Di Sabatino sends it to the inside for the lead in TC2. Does he hold it on the exit? Well, Engstler had to wind off the lock a little bit when he saw him coming, didn't he, James? But that was a confident single-seater driver's move.
Yeah, that was. He threw it down the inside there, but the last shot we had, there was quite a gap between these two. So has Frank made a mistake somewhere, or is he just running slower?
Well, we saw him throwing the car around a lot, didn't we, when we were watching him? Pasquale has a monster lock-up, and suddenly the gap will come right back down again. Last lap by Engstler, a 56.8, a 55.9 by Di Sabatino, so a full second quicker. So, yeah, maybe that Engstler just ran out of road somewhere around the back of the circuit and allowed Di Sabatino to close right up. Fastest lap of the race for Ugo Vallant in 10th place at the moment. He's talking to Alessandro Mariani of Sport this morning, and he was telling me that Citroën tested here at the Hungaroring 6 days during the winter, including 2, he said, when it rained all day long. So the Hondas were not looking forward to a wet race. They've had 1 day of testing, Honda, when it was wet on the track. So he said, if it's wet, they'll just murder everybody.
No, but they've got to be pleased with where they are now.
Yeah.
A lot of cars right at the front there. A fantastic start for them.
Well, not much in terms of drama, not much in terms of a race really going on in the top half dozen. All the gaps are fairly large. Rob Huff still holding off Dusan Borkovic. And again, as we saw when he was talking us around at the beginning of the show, using the belly of the car over the curbs there at turn 4, really using as much of the road as you're allowed to, and he needs to keep the Serbian behind him. Well, Borkovic is impressed with his racecraft this year, James. I mean, he's come in from the European Touring Car Cup, so he's had sort of an idea of, you know, the guys in the World Touring Car Championship a bit, but to be watching from the outside and then to be, you know, dropping into it is very different. I mean, you must have found coming from British touring cars into the World Championship, different cars, different circuits. I mean, it's an awful lot to get to grips with.
It's a big step change, and he's taken that on very well, and he's racing hard, and he's made up ground through this race. So he will be pleased. He will be getting frustrated and very hot behind the wheel, sitting behind Rob, not finding a way past, but Rob is very good at his job.
He is indeed. So too is Ivar Muller. Started on pole position, made no mistakes. For the first time this year, I think, made a decent getaway, and that was crucial because he got in front of Jose Maria Lopez. Otherwise, Lopez, for the first time in his World Touring Car career, might have been looking at winning race 1 rather than race 2.
Using the right buttons this time, not the pit limiters to try and get off the line.
Exactly right. It's enough to confuse a bear of little brain, and apparently a 4-time world champion as well. All the settings on the steering. This time he got it absolutely hooked up. And again, like I said earlier, if he makes a mistake once, he very rarely makes it a second time. Thiago Monteiro in 3rd. That'll be a reward for the Honda guys. And he's the first of 4 consecutive Hondas. So again, manufacturer points all racking up. But now 8.7 seconds behind the leader and 6.7 behind second place. So Muller and Lopez, there's no question in my mind, for the last 10 laps, Muller and Lopez have been running nose to tail, holding station, and have been requested to do so. And, you know, Muller won't care. He'll be very happy with that, thank you. Lopez will go, okay, well, the next time I've got to get in front and then it'll all work for me. And that's the deal, you know, if they're going to rigorously enforce the team orders, you just got to get in front. Ivar Muller did. He wins race 1 from Jose Maria Lopez. And in the Honda race behind, Thiago Monteiro in 3rd place. Good result for him. Gabriele Tarquini in 4th. Mehdi Benani in 5th. Norbert Michelis in 6th. And Sebastian Loeb 7th. Unable to make any inroads at all into the Hungarians' 6th position. Citroën a 1-2 result. And the Honda guys looking pleased with the improvements they've made to the car. Looks like Thiago still had decent pace at the end of the race. His last lap, a 1:52.0. less than 2 seconds slower than his very fastest of the race. He finishes on the podium in third spot.